Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. It's a victory pod, as it's just what we do, man.
As it always is.
Look, I know there are going to be some people who complain and stuff like that, but I'm really happy we weren't able to record or be live. Hey, everybody. You know, I haven't been live in a little while. That's fun. We miss you. If you're here, you rule. Thank you. But you know what? Because you were down at the game and you had to come back on the with Fans of Philly, that was the best.
Yeah.
You know, the buses, shout out to Fans of Philly, come to Dallas with us.
Yes.
But because of that, you know, we had to wait till now to record, and we got to see the Niners lose again, and we got to see the Chiefs lose 24-9 to the freaking Broncos. And it's just a reminder, like, I know it's not been super pretty at all times this year. Like, it seemed like it was all of last year, and it wasn't. I'm sure there were moments that we forget, like the Arizona game, the Indy game, and all that. But man, this team just wins, Elliot.
Yeah.
This team just freaking wins for the second year in a row. They're through 8 weeks of the season. They have the best record in the NFL. They stand alone. They're the only one-loss team. Like, you know, I know we'll nitpick here and there, but they won, man. They went on the road again and won. And I just think this team deserves a ton of credit for the consistency that they show up with each week, even when they have a bad half, even when they don't look ready, even when Eric Bieniemy and Sam Howell seem to be like Sean Desai's
kryptonite.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Like the weirdest stuff. Like, and we'll get into it all. But off the top, I just want to like say, especially after watching these other teams lose and the Chiefs lose like ugly, like, you know, credit to the freaking Eagles, man. They're 7-1 and they continue to win, and they again have the best record in the NFL through 8 weeks. You know, so that's my lead. If it were a you know, newspaper article, if newspapers still existed.
Throwback. Yeah.
Yes.
So the Eagles, so the 49ers have lost 3 games in a row. Jalen Hurts has last 3 games in his last 26 regular season starts.
Boom.
I mean, it just is what it is. Like, so I do agree. It was nice to have like 2 hours to sit on the bus, talk to Eagles fans, and like just kind of, you know, think about the game more. I understand, and I think we're probably being a little naive. Like, in the moment, it did not feel like an impressive performance. Like, the first half was not great. The defense was not great. The offense was frustrating with the turnovers, and we'll get into all that stuff. But I think that you could also look at that game and without like, you know, trying to like, and you can honestly say they could have really had 52 points and really only gave up 24 points. So a lot of people were in my mentions. A lot of people were tweeting like, Elliot, you said this game wasn't even worth playing. Like, the Eagles were so out of the low. I agree with that. Like, I think I'm right about that still. I'm not here to say I was wrong. Like, the Eagles are way better. They're way better than Washington. And if it wasn't for 2 turnovers in the red zone within the 5-yard line, a turnover on the tush push, which never happens, then they absolutely smacked this team around. I think 38-31 in some ways is depictive of what the game was like, but in other ways was not. Like, they gave up, the defense was really bad in the first half. The defense in the third quarter had 2 turnovers on downs and obviously the big interception by Reed Blankenship. The offense moved the ball up and down the field pretty much throughout the game. The running game was not great, but A.J. Brown was amazing. I'm sure we will get into A.J. Brown and what he's been doing. But they really could have had 52 points if not for a fluke play on the tush push and a Kenny Gainwell play with, like, I don't think he should ever see the field again. Like, I don't get the Kenny Gainwell thing. So ultimately they went down to Washington. It was probably closer than it should have been. But I think there were a lot of encouraging signs from this game. I don't leave this game thinking like, man, the defense can't stop anybody, because we saw the defense hold the Dolphins to 7 points last week. Like, Eric Bieniemy just outcoached Sean Desai is what it is. But last week when they played Miami, the defense looked fine. The offense once again looked great. So I leave this game, and maybe my optimism will be frustrating to people, which is maybe a new lane for me. But I leave the game like they're 7-1. They're the best team in the NFL. They're clearly the best team in the NFL. And I think it's another week where if you're listening to this pod on a Monday morning, you should feel really good about your team.
Yeah, look, Jalen was amazing too. Won it throwing 318 and 4 tutties. A.J. Brown is, you know, maybe the best receiver in the NFL. Him and Tyreek Hill is the discussion right now, at least certainly over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But But to the point I was making at the top, just like elaborate on it more and to build on your point, because you're right. We are coming, philosophically, we're in the exact same place. We are saying, man, go Birds. They look awesome. Like they continue to win, and that's hard. I think the thing is, it's like a cliche for a reason, one of my things, but like it's hard to win every week in the
Yep.
NFL. And that's what I'm saying. When you see
Ask
the
the
Chiefs
Niners.
lose 24 to 9 to the Broncos freaking stink. Like even when the Eagles lose to the Jets, it's 4 turnovers and they lose by 2 or
Right.
whatever, or I guess it was 6 because that late touchdown, whatever. But like, uh, you know, this team shows up so much more often than they don't, and they win so consistently, and that's hard to do. Like you said, the Niners have lost 3 in a row against teams that, at least a couple of them you would say are certainly quote unquote inferior to them. And the Eagles, look, it's hard. My athletes are humans thing, but it's true. And you're a football player and you beat the freaking Dolphins, who everyone's talking about as the best offense in the NFL, and you shut them down, this defense, on national television. And everyone's like, all right, look at the Birds after coming off a bad loss. And you've got Dallas coming up next week. It is a classic trap game in that spot. And you're on tape. You're looking at the last few weeks of Washington, which has been trash. Like we were talking about how bad they've been.
Trust me, I know.
It's easy to maybe not take them as serious as you should, even if they almost beat you before. And then on top of that, like, look, sometimes there are certain matchups, both coaching and player wise in the NFL, that just like matter. And I think this Bieniemy decide thing matters.
Yes.
And I think that this Washington team isn't scared to play the Eagles after the last 2 games against them, and certainly Sam Howell with that first game. And the crazier thing is that it seemed like it was mostly the same type of game plan, and they still were able to execute it. But I think also, look, I'm a big football's confidence. You line up against the guy in front of you, and the guy who wants it more and thinks he's going to beat you more can often win. And I think this Washington team came into this game thinking, we should have beat them last time, we can beat them. And I think that matters too. So ultimately, yeah, was the defense not great today? For sure. Can you be, annoyed at certain players and certain moments? For sure. But like, the Eagles won again. They're 7-1. Like, credit where due, man. Like, it's hard to do that.
So before we get into like specifics of the game and different parts of this game, like the last kind of big picture thing, I was thinking when I was driving home or riding home, I guess I should say, on the bus, is I think it's more clear this year that the Eagles are the best team in the NFL than it was last year. Like, I know last year they were 8-0, but I thought last year there was like more teams you could point to and go, all right, this team's legit. And there are teams this year for sure. Like the Bengals look good today, but the Chiefs don't. The 49ers don't. The Cowboys already have 2 losses. Like, and look, big game coming up this week. But I think if you put the resumes of all the teams in the NFL up against each other after this Sunday, the Eagles are clearly the top team. Like, they just clearly are. They have the best combination of offensive line, defensive line, quarterback, head coach, and receiver. And for what it's worth, even though the secondary was not good today, for sure, definitely not good, I don't think many teams that also are in that competition of like the top 5 or 6 teams have as much talent in the secondary as the Eagles do. The Eagles had 2 safeties today that have never taken a snap together.
Well, they
2
said
safeties
on TV, Elliot, you probably didn't hear, but it was the 8th in 8 games, the 8th different grouping they've had in the Eagles secondary. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, what are you supposed to do,
And look, Bradbury, maybe he's not having the season he was last year. It feels like he's getting beat more and more, just one-on-one down the field. Got beat for a touchdown today. Looked like he was going to jump her out, and then McLaurin got behind him. I don't see the struggles with Slay that everyone else does, but it seems like everyone believes it. So maybe I'll just step back from that one. But I don't have a big long-term concern about the secondary. So just looking around the league, I think it's very obvious they're the best team. And last year, me and you debated this a lot. Remember, like I kept saying I thought it was Kansas City. You were like, no, I think it's the Eagles. And my whole thing was, well, the Eagles haven't won in the playoffs. Like, let's see them do it. The Eagles have won in the playoffs. They beat the Niners in the playoffs. They haven't lost 3 games in a row like the Niners have. They haven't lost as many games as the Chiefs have. They didn't lose. Like, I know they lost to the Jets, but again, not as many losses as the Chiefs. Like, the Cowboys haven't won in the playoffs in ages. I don't think there's a team out there that, yes, we can nitpick each performance and go, okay, in the Jets, this could have been better. In Washington, this could have been better. Against Minnesota, this could have been better. But overall, there's not a team in the NFL that is on the Eagles level. Like it's the Eagles and then it's everyone else. And I don't think at any point last year you could have said that.
Yeah, obviously I did last year. You know that we
Right.
were on opposite sides of that, but look, I'm with you right now too. Certainly with the results that we've seen, and again, they have impressive wins. They have the most wins. They've had the most consistent. They have 5 road wins.
Yeah.
Excuse me, five. They've already won, or excuse me, played 5 road games, not 5 road wins. I believe it's 4 road wins, right? Or
Is
no,
that
5.
right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah,
Because
because
they
they
were home
lost to
against
the
Minnesota.
Jets. Yeah, they lost to the Jets. So still they have 4 road wins, 4 and 1 on the road, right? So like, I mean, that's super
Oh, that's
impressive.
wild. Yeah. So they were home against
Yeah.
Minnesota,
So they were on the road week
Dolphins, and
1.
Washington.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
yeah, exactly. So that's an impressive thing, So they just they're so consistent with it, with the winning and the winning, like it's a winning culture now, and it's impressive. And I think they deserve credit again on a day where there's such a stark example where these other teams they're competing with couldn't get it done. And look,
Yep.
ultimately you have to win in the playoffs, you have to win the Super Bowl for it all to matter. But if we just and we're about to jump into specifics, but if we just take ourselves back to the beginning of the season and going over the schedule, even when the schedule came out, and we all said, hey, they're going to be 7-1 heading into that tough
Yeah.
stretch, we'd all be like, hell yeah, man, hell yeah, good job,
I mean,
Birds. So
for
credit,
sure. And
that's totally.
credit where credit. Like
If
you
we
were
had
right
said
about
six
that.
and two, we'd be like, sweet, okay,
hundred
let's
percent.
go. Yeah.
100%. But the other part of this too is, so I was looking back, and the last time Sirianni and Jalen lost 3 games in a row was the beginning of their rookie year together. Sirianni's rookie year and his first year as a full-time starter. Think about from that game in Las Vegas to where we are now. And we can't do this with every pod. And I know we start every pod like, look how much they're winning. But it
Totally.
really is such a special time in the franchise history. And the Niners losing 3 straight kind of puts it in perspective. Like, think about how long ago we all know it's, 2 full seasons or whatever. Just think about like your own life, like whoever's listening to this. Think about how long it feels in your life since that Raiders game in Las Vegas before that Lions game. Like, think about how long ago it feels like we were talking about Sirianni with the roots and the flower growing. They've lost 3 regular season games since then. with Hurts, obviously, I'm saying.
No, it's a
Like,
great point.
it's bananas. So
Yeah.
even today when they were falling behind and all those things, and there were points today for sure where I was like, look, they've turned it over twice. Like, they're doing things that you see in losses. But once they got control, I was like, that's it.
It never felt like they were going to lose. Like, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
they're putting themselves in a spot where something could go wrong and it'd be dumb. But like, I never expected them to lose,
Yeah. I should have checked, and I'm mad at myself I didn't. But I'd be curious to know how big of underdogs they got, if at all, on the Parks app.
Yeah, I didn't see it. All right, let's dive into some specifics. Obviously, not a ton to say about it, but Jalen was great today.
Well, so I actually do have a ton to say about Jalen.
Oh, good. All right,
Okay.
because at least from a throwing perspective, and obviously AJ was great, and that helps too. But spread it around. It was Devontae's best game in forever. Goddard was involved, and again, just the accuracy. Obviously, not every throw is perfect, but protecting the ball from an interception perspective.
Yeah.
I thought he was great today.
So I thought Jalen was a franchise quarterback today. Like, those are the games you want. Like, that's why you pay Jalen $255 million. That's why you go out.
MVP today.
He wasn't. I mean,
yeah.
All right, so the 2 turnovers they had. And I'm curious if you've seen other angles of the fumble and
the touch push on TV. They like kind of like showed the one right away from behind. You couldn't see what happened. You just could tell the ball was definitely out. But they never really showed kind of how it came out.
So the angle I saw, it looks like Kelsey basically, and there's really, unfortunately, with the nature of the snap, no way to talk about this without being like somewhat like childish and graphic. Yeah, like, I mean, he literally snaps it like right up into his butt. So I don't think Jalen ever touches the ball. And then the Kenny Gainwell fumble, obviously not on Jalen. So if you think about that, Jalen got this team into the red zone within the 5 twice, and they got no points. They still scored 38 points. And Jalen he had over, I don't know what he finished with that, like 313 or something like that passing. 318. So last year, for the whole year, including the playoffs, he had over 300 yards 5 times. This year, he already has it 3 times. Like, nice. He is passing the ball. And look, after the passing game was bad to start the year, I think we can say it now. Like, he is passing the ball way better than he was last year. In training camp, this is what I saw from Jalen and AJ. We would do those daily pods, and I'd come on and be like, Jalen is making throws he wasn't making last year, and him and AJ are unbelievable together. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Like, I think he is a better passer than last year. I think the passing offense is better than it was last year. And on a day like today, where the defense was terrible for most of the game, like there was long stretches of that game where you had no confidence the defense would get a stop when they weren't getting stops, when Washington was going up and down the field. And one thing I've said about Jalen consistently is I need to see this guy win shootouts. Like when in the second half, if you have to score in every possession, then go score in every possession. If you have to be, win the game like 38-31, exactly like he did today, then go out and win the game 38-31. And he should have had over 50 points. Like he was a quarterback good enough today where his offense should have had 52 points. And so I really leave this game just like, these are the moments like in 10 years or however long it is when the Eagles don't have a franchise quarterback, or think back from like post Donovan to really like Carson, I guess. Think of all those games where the Eagles had so much uncertainty at quarterback. This is the benefit of having a franchise guy. It's having a quarterback that when everything's not going right and you're playing a gross divisional game and you're on the road and like blah, 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 like you still win because he's just that good. And so I really came away like super impressed with Jalen today. So many special throws, so many big moments. I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, and again, coming off what we all agreed was the biggest regular season win of the Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts era, to come off that. And obviously last week, the defense played great and they got a lot of credit like they deserved and all that. And look, they came back this week and struggled again against Washington. But for Jalen to come off that win and also the knee thing and dealing with that all week and just come out and just be like, boom, 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 especially after that first drive, they struggled 3 and out and you're down 7-0. And it's just like, no problem. You're down again in the first half, 17-10 or whatever. And he's so consistently good. And it is, both, play and mentality wise. It's awesome. AJ, let's get to him. Cause obviously you can't say one without the other today. AJ, sets the NFL record. I know that was talked a lot about with 6 straight games with 125 plus, touchdowns. He has 2 today. He is that first touchdown catch, one of the best catches I've ever seen an Eagles receiver make. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think the Alshon won the Super Bowl when you take everything into account, still probably above it in terms of like the moment and everything, but like, not many better, man. That catch was unfreaking real. And he's just better than everyone else.
Yeah. So I think there's an argument. Look, Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league, but I think Tyreek Hill is such like a freak anomaly that like you could almost say like he doesn't count when ranking people. Like I think AJ is playing like the best receiver in the NFL.
It's him and AJ. I think
it's him and AJ.
It's him and AJ, and then there's a gap.
100%, especially with Justin Jefferson out. Like, especially with Justin Jefferson.
And the guys like Jamar Chase is playing well, but he's not playing like AJ, guys like that,
So on the way up, on the Fans of Philly bus, they showed the DVD of the Super Bowl season, and it was cool. Like, first of all, it all looked so old to me, which is wild. Like, even just like the uniforms and and I know it's not old. It's only like 5 or 6 years old, but I'm sure in 10 years when I watch it, like it'll look ancient. So that was kind of weird, but it was a good memory of just like how special that season one and everything was. But I saw the Alshon catch in the Super Bowl, and I tweeted earlier today, it's the best catch I've ever seen. And then of course, AJ goes out and makes like, it's not better than the Alshon one, but I think physically, like it probably is a better catch. Again, when you take into
it's more like acrobatic and like hand-eye impressive and all that. Alshon, you also have to take into account the fact they had torn rotator cuff, which
it's in the Super Bowl and like,
but yeah, I think just in terms of like highlight reel, AJ's was more cool looking for sure.
And it also put into perspective, like Alshon came to Philly and helped them win the Super Bowl. So clearly like good signing, good, whatever. The impact AJ is having on this team is so much greater than any receiver I've seen since T.O. Like, it's not even close. Like, we forget in 2017, Alshon like struggled a little bit. Remember, there was the whole like him and Carson aren't on the same page.
Totally,
and the So AJ has not only been the best trade this franchise ever made, I think he is the best receiver in franchise history. And I'm ignoring history here, of course, like Mike Quick, Harold Carmichael, T.O. for 1 year. But
Yeah,
man, just when
of this generation, and look, I think you can say that if AJ keeps doing this here, if they re-sign him, if he stays, which you don't know why he wouldn't with his relationship with Jalen, they're both super young, all
he
that.
won't go anywhere.
Like, yeah, he has a chance to go down as like easily with a bullet the best Eagles receiver of all time.
And the first touchdown catch will get a lot of attention, rightfully so.
The second one was
unbelievable too.
Catches he made along the way, and just
the
way he gets, like, that was something. And I want to talk about Brian Johnson and offensive scheme in a little bit, because there was the running stuff early and all kinds of stuff. But I also, something that frustrates me is I feel like Shane Steichen's offense, it felt like these guys who are amazing receivers were always open. Always open, and there was always like wide open space, and I feel like I haven't seen that as much this year with Brian Johnson's offense, where guys just feel like they're open all the time. AJ not only gets open more than other guys, and Devontae's obviously amazing at it, but this year has not been as open, it seems, at least to what we see. But like with AJ, it's not only does he get open, but he only needs a fraction of space. Like he is always open, because you could throw it to him, and as long as the ball touches his hands, he's going to get it. Like
he's got really strong hands.
It's such a wide range, such a wide radius. The whole thing, like he is unbelievable. It feels like he was genetically engineered to play the position.
Well, what's crazy is, and I don't watch every snap of every game of like every NFL game, but do the Eagles have the two most unstoppable plays in the NFL right now? Just in terms of the tush push and like AJ or Jalen to AJ, like whenever they want it for like 7-8 yards, easy, like down the field. I think it's such a benefit of Jalen and AJ, where I think with running the ball, people like to run the ball because it feels more dependable. Like running game travels, you can do it in the cold and whatever, all those things. Like Jalen and AJ, it's almost like a handoff. Like it is amazing how often when they need a play, like when they have to have something, they have AJ to go to. They have Jalen to AJ. Like that's why you trade the first round pick. That's why you spend all that money. Because on days like today, when it's gross and you're at FedEx and it's not going well, you just throw it to AJ a bunch of times and you win the game. And it's such an insane luxury. I also think AJ's personality gets discussed a lot because of, the thing that happened on the sideline with the Vikings and all that. But I think he has an awesome personality too. Like he says all the right things, super cool with Jalen. Him and Devontae are really close. I think he's a positive influence in that locker room overall. Are there times he wants the ball? Of course there's times he wants the ball. But that's because he's really good. There's times all the players want the football. But I just think on the field, he's obviously awesome. But off the field too. Like he brings his daughter to practice. He wears the colorful cleats on the field so his daughter can see him. Like, I don't know, man. I think sometimes we only discuss AJ's personality in a negative way, not us, but like the sports scene in general.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's doing is incredibly special, and he's a big part of that culture too. Down at the
I'm happy you brought it up. I totally agree. It seems like every single person on that team loves him. Whenever you hear guys talk about like their favorite teammates, he's always brought up. Clearly, him and Hurts. We always joke. Not really joke. We're always serious. But when we're talking about how, like, hey, Window Nation, if Jalen does it, you should trust him because he's Jalen Hurts, and it's serious. But like, same thing with like him and AJ being best friends. No, like, wouldn't you trust Jalen Hurts' judgment and who his best friend in the world is? I couldn't agree more. And he seems like a really likable human being with a very fun personality who always seems like positive and whatever for the most part, other than, look, they're competitors. They get fired up. So with you. All right. Moving on to some other things on the offensive side. I want to talk about Brian Johnson real quick, because I think, certainly when they were down early and, the only one swift run for a while, and just the usage of Gainwell, enough already with
I agree.
Gainwell plays in big spots, like all this stuff, but also the play calls in a lot of big spots. And obviously as it got, the game went on and they started to just throw to AJ and throw to Devontae, the number was going around. He was like 15 for 15 for like 230 something with.
Shout out to Jimmy Kempski tweeted that out.
Yeah, it was a great, so like, I think it was Jimmy. Yeah. I was trying to remember where I saw it. And they just started doing that. And it was like, nice. Like, I think Brian Johnson has done a nice job of adjusting as games have gone on. But again, like, early on, it was kind of ugly. And like I said before, for the most part, I wonder why guys don't feel as open all the time. But look, there's an offense that put up 31 last week, 38 this week. So,
Should have had
it's
more.
it's like, yeah, should have more though. But what did you think of? Because I do think a lot of people are talking about Johnson. And we'll get to Nick's performance too today, and obviously the offense, it's Nick too. Um, what did you
Well,
think? Look, we can lump that in too because there were some fourth down calls, the 4th and 2 where they got the
yeah.
penalty, the fourth down prior to that. That was there were a couple spots like that.
Well, so
Go
on
ahead.
the fourth downs, I thought Nick did a good job, Sirianni, of like going for it and being aggressive. I
I
thought he
did
did
too.
a good job with that. And it's funny. I don't think I'm the reason why, obviously, but it feels like ever since we started talking on the pod
What
about
a
him needing to be
great
more
way to leave
aggressive.
a sentence. That was so great.
You like that? Thank you.
Yeah.
So
I
my
mean, it's
experience at
not
Fed,
me, but like
it could
might be
be,
me.
it could be. The Go Birds community is very big. So my experience at FedEx today, in terms of like hearing and understanding what people are talking about, it's probably the worst I've ever had. My seat in the FedEx was literally right in front of a beam. The internet wasn't really working. I didn't do the WIP post game show because I was on a bus. So what's interesting is you bring up Brian Johnson. I didn't really have a Brian Johnson thought from today. Like I didn't leave this thinking like Brian Johnson didn't do a good job. I mean, the offense should have put up 52 points. I thought they were mostly fine. I think one problem that offense is running into a little is they haven't been able to run the ball great the last 2 weeks. And so,
Which is interesting.
which is interesting. So I would not put Kenny Gainwell into the game. And if you want to put that on Brian
Yeah.
Johnson, like I think that falls on Nick, Brian Johnson, and the running backs coach to an extent. Like my thing with Kenny
Like
Gainwell
Boston
is,
Scott is better. Put him in the
yeah,
game. He's shiftier. He makes plays more.
I just think Kenny Gainwell has no juice. Like when he has the
He has
ball,
no juice.
he's not elusive in the open field. He doesn't have breakaway speed. Like he's
Look,
undersized.
I will say, look, the fumble today, he doesn't normally make mistakes. I think the best thing you could say about Kenny Gainwell prior to, a massive mistake today was he doesn't really make
Yes.
mistakes. Like he knows where he's supposed to be. Like we've talked about, he's a good pass blocker and all that type of stuff. And it's usually not his fault that they're handing him the ball in big situations or on 3rd and 10 or whatever weird stuff they're doing. Like it's not his fault, but at the same time, like, and usually he doesn't make mistakes, but at the same time, like we've talked about, like can't do better with that. If you are going to hand the ball to that running back position where you clearly are trying to rest Swift a bit and not get him too banged up, which I'm fine with. Look, we've talked about that. I think it's smart to not overuse Swift and pick and choose your spots like against Washington, where you should be able to get away with getting Swift some rest. I'm fine with it. Just get someone better in Gainwell. Like give Penny a freaking chance. Either way, give Scott the
Or
ball. Like
trade for
it's just
somebody. You
weird.
have till
Or
Tuesday.
trade.
I would trade for
Exactly.
somebody. Yeah.
Whatever.
I was thinking
Either way, my
game,
point is it's like you can't keep giving this guy the ball so much in these
I agree.
situations.
I agree. He's in like it's not just the mistake he made today. Again, I don't think he's a playmaker. I don't think he's special with the ball in his hand. So yeah, I mean Kenny Gainwell obviously not great, but that's kind of all I have on the offense. Like I thought the offense was great.
Yeah, no,
the
I'm
turnovers
not
are bad for sure. Like, but again, like we could sit here and break down each turnover and they're bad overall, but I don't know what the solution is. It's
well,
not
and
like
also to the point we just said, and look, I think it's fair to say that this Eagles team has turned the ball over way more than this Eagles offense, way more than they did last year, like per game and all that stuff. And that has to be, that has to stop. But also specifically with this game, a fumble on the tush push. That's literally never happened before.
Exactly.
And like we just talked about, Gainwell's not really a guy who's like giving the ball up. Like it just felt like it was two kind of out of character turnovers. So
yeah, and I know that they emphasize it. Like they do it every day at practice. There are two huge posters in the team meeting room that talk about ball security. So I don't think this is a coaching thing. I don't think it's the players being lazy thing. It's just happening, and it has to stop for sure. On the flip side, the defense not forcing as many turnovers as last year too, which I think makes the offensive one stand out a little more. But yeah, I mean, they have to be better with the ball. Like I don't know what they can do about it. I think just have to hope, but like for sure, they're turning it over too much.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the defense because again, the decide enemy thing's weird. We'll get to that, but look, a lot of guys didn't show up. They made some stops when they needed it. Blankenship, obviously, the big interception there. Though kind of thrown right to him. But look, I think the D line continues to look good for the most part, even though the game plan today kind of took him out of it. But where you're at with the defense, obviously not a good performance today.
So did you see Darius Slay call me out on Twitter? Have you seen this? Have you seen this? No, I'm guessing based off the facial reaction, you have not.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness. Darius,
So
what are you doing, buddy? I'm gonna look at it.
all right, so I tweeted, and this will lead into my defensive take. This is where I'm going with it.
Go.
I tweeted, let me get down to it, and I'll tell you what he tweeted. Okay. The Eagles defense was not good for most of the game, but bottom line is offense is all that matters. When the offense drops 38 points, I think fans should leave the game encouraged about how the team played. Offense wins Super Bowls. Defense is just a fun topic.
And
Bad
take.
And he quote tweeted and put bad take with a bunch of exclamation points. So
I don't disagree, Darius. I don't disagree. Defense matters. I say it to him all the time.
Defense matters, right? But like ultimately, we saw last week what this Eagles defense can do. I think in last year they struggled against Washington. I wonder if just like the personnel doesn't match up, whatever. I feel fine about the Eagles
thing. And
and the enemy. I feel fine about
how he was able to pull off the same freaking game plan he was last time. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I still think Darius Slay is good, even if my guy's coming at me on Twitter. Still think Darius Slay
defend him a lot, which is
funny. I do. It's funny. I remember like for 8 hours at McGurk's this past summer, I was like the only one up on that little stage being like, they should keep him. So I just, again, as long as the offense is playing good, I'm going to feel good about him. People cannot like that. They can disagree with it. That's just how I feel. And I'm consistent with it. This isn't like some new take to like skirt off blame from the defense. It's just how I feel. I think the defense got out coached today. I don't think it was a personnel thing. The defensive line, I guess, didn't get a ton of pressure, but also Washington clearly came in with the idea of just get rid of it super quickly. Later on, when they stopped doing that, they definitely got pressure on them. Reed Blankenship and Kevin Byard playing their first snaps together. I just don't really care that the defense struggled. Can only be honest
I'm not super concerned about it. Like I said, I think they just came off their best performance of the season in a big spot against a offense that was super hyped coming in. And, I think they kind of took this a little more lightly than they should probably. I will say, I want to shout out a couple people. First of all, my boy Kobe Dean, that wasn't a perfect one, but he definitely flashes. And he had that big play on Logan Thomas. He was definitely in on that almost sack, kind of forcing. Did that force a turnover? No, I think. But regardless, he looks quick out there, and he looks better than I think the people who were expecting him to struggle have.
I would agree with you. I don't think he flashed me as much as you do. But again, I'm just being honest. Like my view of the field
was
today
bad. All right, no worries.
Like,
all right, then I'll give two more quick ones. You don't even have to comment because you can come on the second one. The first one goes without comment. I mean, Hassan Reddick, the closer, like it's just whenever the game matters.
I think that's a great nickname for him too.
It's so good.
I'm
right?
in on that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Well, and look, it's credit to him. It's probably conditioning, and it's also that he is a speed guy, and as the game goes on, he can wear guys down and whatever it is. But he's been great in the run game too. But just so much credit to him for keeping the motor going all game, and coming through when it matters most and converting, like you always say, Elliot. Like it's one thing to pressure, it's another thing to either convert it into a sack or to impact the throw or to cause a fumble like he has so many times in the past. So he's been great. And also, you know what? I know we've mentioned it here and there, but shout out to Fletcher Cox, man.
Yeah,
he's been awesome. Like he has been. It is a renaissance season for him. He has not looked this good in years. He is hunting down plays. He is like, chasing down screens, dare you say. I've been super impressed with Fletch.
I do worry a little bit about like Jalen Carter had the back injury. Milton Williams left the game briefly. Jordan Davis has it. So like they are getting banged up on the defensive line. Obviously big game next week with Dallas coming up. So that would be a concern of mine. I think next week against Dallas, we'll get a better look at like where this defense is at. If they give up, like 30 plus points to Dallas, then I think you look at it and go, all right, like in a shootout, this offense really is going to have to score a ton of points. And maybe the defense isn't going to be able to hold these great offenses to low totals. But again, they literally just held the Dolphins to 10 points. So I think that's important to point out. So yeah, outside of them, the defense, like Eli Ricks, I thought made some plays.
Yeah, I wrote down in my notes, Eli Ricks plays with some fire.
Yeah,
And he
I'm in on
does.
Eli Ricks for
Me too,
sure.
man. I really like
Um,
him.
outside, I mean, Reed Blankenship,
Oh,
I did
Sidney
think
Brown too. Sidney
Sidney
Brown.
Brown, yes, good point. Sidney
Yeah,
Brown made some
yeah.
good plays. They were clearly coming after Sidney Brown early. They felt they could go at
And
him.
he made some plays. He said,
Yeah,
and
he
that
did.
pop he had, yeah, it was
He's really
good.
good against the
Oh,
run.
we
He
we
plays
should quit.
downhill.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. That was my
No, I
fault.
was just saying he plays downhill. Like Sydney,
Yeah.
like when Sydney comes into the screen, like you can tell he is coming in. Like he comes in fast.
Yeah. Speaking of coming in fast, Derek Barnett flies around like a psycho out there with no control. He's reckless. Like the one play,
Almost
it
got
looked
in a
like he almost
fight again
ate-
today after a special
like he
teams
almost
play.
took someone's head off. Like I am so good on him
They should trade
in
him and
terms
give
of
those
done.
snaps to Nolan
I'm with
Smith.
you. Yeah. Who would take him though? They should, like what you said, too. They should cut Kenny Gainwell to protect themselves from these
Yeah,
guys.
exactly.
Shout out to Julio, Eagles TD. That's like
Yes.
something I never expected to see. Great throw, like nice catch in the tight
Does
window.
Quez make that catch?
Yeah, no, I think Quez gets hit and crumbles and never plays again in that situation. That was a great one from Julio. And I have one other thing. Obviously, Swift should have gone down at the end. I tweeted in the
Yeah, I
moment.
agree with that. Yeah.
Like that was the game's over if he goes down. Like that was dumb. That was
Let me ask you
and
your
that's
opinion on
on
this.
him and that's on the coaches unless they told him and he didn't do it, which but they should reinforce that before that situation. Hey, if it comes up in this situation, get the first down and slide immediately because the game is freaking over. But no big deal. Look, they won.
What'd
But
you
it didn't need to be that ending type part anyway.
What'd you think of the call there? Like to run like the fake tush push.
Oh, I hated it. I like what are you doing in that situation? I don't think you need to look, worst case, even if you don't get the first down, you kick a field goal and you still have time
You're
to
up 10 at
you're
that
up
point.
10 and you still need to just get an onside kick after that. So
So
regardless,
I was a
go ahead.
little surprised they burned that look. Like the tush push is one of the
That's my
most talked
point.
about plays
That's
in the
exactly
NFL. Like
why would you play it there? Why would you use it there is my
yeah,
point.
you can
It
see
was
everybody.
unnecessary.
But on the flip side, I will be interested to see now. I wonder if they think too many people are just jumping recklessly at Jalen. I wonder if this is going to keep people off him a little, like it's a trend
Smart.
buster in that way. So I think I'm fine with it. I was just surprised. Like that, to me, that feels like maybe it's because I have Super Bowl 2017 on my mind. That feels like a play they call in the Super Bowl. And like everyone's like, here comes a tush push. Should it be in? Blah, blah, blah. And then they pitch it back and score. So I was just like surprised they ran it there. And that's fine.
Totally agree. All right. Last things I had, crowd was unbelievable. You could hear through the TV.
Yeah, it was mostly Eagles fans.
Got me so excited for Dallas. Let's
Yep.
freaking go. Come with
Fans
us.
of Philly.
I put one note at some point that I realized it during the game, and this is also a way for us to say sorry to all the people who were really upset that we talked Phillies too much. Don't worry, ain't gonna be any more of that. Don't worry.
Right.
But is the last time I'll bring it up. But in literally for half a second, I'll say with the Phillies, I have so many superstitions watching these games, and granted, the playoffs games make it more extreme and stuff. But I realized with this Eagles team, like last year during the run, even now, every game, usually for Eagles, you have superstitions because it's one a week and they have no superstition with them. I don't do any my weird, my email needs to be at this number, or I need to make sure I do the dishes before the game. I don't need to do any of it. It just feels like they win regardless of me. So I just want to put that out there.
I just have one final thought on the game, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to you have a final game thought.
Yes.
Okay. Because my last two things are just a weird thought and a final thought. So go ahead.
Britton Covey, man, talk about a player that has juice. When he had that long run today, he looked like he shot out of a cannon. When he gets going,
run into Nolan Smith, he would have could have kept going. It felt like
yes. So I think with special teams, they're either it feels like not talked about or only ripped. And I think the special teams deserve a ton of credit. Britton Covey's been awesome. I'm very impressed.
I'm so with you, and we talked about that on our radio show. And if people didn't hear it, everyone was really loud ripping Michael Clay and ripping the special team, and deservedly so. It bit them in the biggest of spots. Credit so far this year. So far, so good. They've been really, really good so far. All right, weird thought, and then we'll do final thoughts. I had a weird thought as I watched the opening kickoff, and I thought throughout, why does it kick off out of bounds, out of the end zone, a touchback? Why does it count as a play? No time elapses. So I feel like it shouldn't count as an actual play in the game.
Well, I think you need to register how the other team got the ball. You talking about on the play-by-play sheet? because it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. Like,
It's just weird. It's just a weird thought
yeah,
that
I agree with that.
is there any there's no other play that counts. Like obviously there are penalties that a play didn't happen and it counts in a way. I guess it's a similar thing, but like it's just weird things that plays that happen where there's no clock time that goes off, but something
Yeah,
happens.
it's look, I'm always gonna support an idea that
I
pushes
know.
against conventional
I got your back, buddy.
what is the saying? My
All
mind's
right,
singing.
final thought.
So it's funny. This is the first final thought. Okay, here's my final thought. So I think cheesesteak egg rolls are like easily, if you want to call them an appetizer, like the best appetizer. Like they're always delicious. They're banging. I love getting them. They're a good way to get a cheesesteak without eating a whole cheesesteak. I, for the first time in my life today, had a bad cheesesteak egg roll. And ironically, it was at Washington Stadium where Joshua Harris is the owner. It is the worst cheesesteak. I didn't even know you could mess it up.
Wow.
Like
What a
the
loser.
food was not
This
good. But
loserness transfers over the food.
well, look, I don't think he's a loser, but you know what I'm
No,
saying.
you don't.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
he's clearly a billionaire, so I'm sure he does not think he's
also another example today with the snow. I know it wasn't snowing in Denver, but like it's raining. I think it was raining in
Don't
Pittsburgh.
do it.
Maybe
Don't do
like
it.
the
Don't do it.
NFLPA should refuse to play in games where there's
No
weather. I don't
one
like. I
to.
just it
No
blows
one
my
to.
mind. It blows my
All
mind.
right.
We talk about how good
No,
AJ is, and then we're willing to
no,
put him out in like the.
no,
Yeah.
no, no.
All
All
right,
right.
those are my final thoughts. I have a
Thank you.
baseball one too, but maybe I'll hold that.
Yeah. Final thought. I have a final thought. And it
Go
is
for it.
and I've been thinking this for a little bit, and I've done it myself too, and I'm guilty. Before everyone goes back and like finds the audio and whatever, I know I have. But I like the announcer in the game, I think it was Daryl Johnson. I'm like 99% sure. And by the way, horrible, just super annoying the entire game. But he said a phrase like 3 or 4 times during the game that like, and look, someone we love a lot says it. But
Is it me?
um, and no, and is known, is not like completely like, but when we think of it, you probably think of this person pretty quickly
Okay.
too. But like enough. We gotta find another way to say this. Like it's just every freaking time. Like we're using the phrase flush it far too often. Far too often. Like
Interesting.
this Daryl Johnson used it after like 4 different plays, like gotta flush it, get back out there. He said, like, I'm like, all right, enough. Like enough. And I know Jalen uses it, and I get, but like it's not every time a loss, everything, flush it, move on. Like, can we just say, like, all right, you got to put it in the past and move forward or whatever? Can we have some other cliches or some other ways of saying things or phrase? It's always flush it. I'm done. I promise you, moving forward, now that I've realized this, I will not use it. Okay, Go Birds.
All right,
Listeners
we'll hold you
and
to
people
that.
that I love and we care about, real ones, auto downloaders, the whole thing. Like, I am not using it. And join me in this quest because it's honestly, it's not like a great phrase like flush
No,
it.
it's
What does it make
not.
you
I
think of?
agree.
Makes me think of like,
It's
let's be honest,
graphic, like,
earmuffs
yeah.
1, 2, 3. It makes you think of shit in the toilet. All right. So like,
Glad you
we
figured that
didn't
part
do
out.
that.
Yeah.
So like, here we go. Thank you. Abolish flush it. That's my final thing.
Look, I can, again, much like I can respect your wish to have the kickoff not count as a play, I can respect that this just annoys
Thanks,
you.
buddy.
So I'm
I
out on it
appreciate
too. There you go.
I love you. You are the best.
I'm out on
friend.
it too.
You're
Yeah.
such a good friend. You really are. You're a good
You won't
friend.
hear me
You're a
say
good
it.
hype man. All right. We'll be back later in the week to look ahead. It's freaking Dallas week, baby.
Yes, sir.
So in case you're wondering what I'm thinking, Dallas sucks. That's
there it is.
All right, we'll be back later in the week. Until then, by the way, 7-1, baby. Go
7-1.
Until then, he's Elliot James.
All right. See you guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye, guys. We appreciate you watching.